Whether these players crushed opponents with their agonizing power, or they induced ankle-shattering moves that made opposing players wish they were at home instead, these players induced fear into opposing teams. Teams would have their games circled on their calendar from the second the schedule gets announced, train their players and game plan just to try to stop these players, and they would still fall victim. No matter what anyone did, there was no stopping these NFL running backs. They did anything they wanted to on any given Sunday. Not stopping them is the perfect example of my honorable mention. My honorable mention is going to go to Emmitt Smith. No matter what NFL teams did, they could not stop him from running all over them and wherever he wanted to. There's a reason he's first all-time in rushing yards. Emmitt Smith is known for his bruising playstyle. He spent 14 years in the NFL, 12 of which were with the Cowboys and the 90s dynasty, and the other 2 or 3 were with the Arizona Cardinals. Emmitt Smith is the definition of a walking trophy. Throughout his career, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1990, MVP in 1993, and Super Bowl MVP in 93 as well. Throughout his career, he went to 4 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros, and 8 Pro Bowls. His bruising playstyle led to him lead the league in rushing yards 4 times, rushing touchdowns 3 times, and even led the league in scrimmage touchdowns in 1995. Oh, and I forgot to mention, he was an integral part of winning 3 different Super Bowls. Not a lot of players can say that. Looking at his career as a total, though, to really define who he is as a player, he is the all-time leading rusher in rush yards, touchdowns, and attempts. He was a menace to opposing teams. Now the question remains, why isn't he in higher than number 6? While I do feel he is an incredible player and a top 6 running back of all time, he also had crazy amounts of help. Don't believe me? Well, the fact that he had the likes of Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, and Larry Allen on that team just goes to show you exactly what I'm talking about. That's just a few players. He was behind the greatest offensive line in NFL history, with the likes of Larry Allen leading that. And that's not to discredit anything that Emmitt Smith did, but it's just to prove that he really did have a lot of help. The 5th best running back of all time is also known for his bruising playstyle. He struck terror and fear into plenty of NFL franchises, but none like the San Diego Chargers. Have you guessed who it is yet? No? Well, that player is going to be Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson was one of the craziest players to watch, especially for me growing up, especially during his prime. No one wanted to look at the schedule and see that they had to match up against him. No matter what defense you ran, you couldn't stop AP. I mean, think about it. Hearing the nicknames of All Day and Purple Jesus, how many players can you say earn nicknames just like that? Peterson had zero remorse for opposing teams who crossed his path. If you were in his way of the end zone, you had better get out of the way or else he was just going to run through you anyway. After getting drafted 7th overall in 2007 by the Minnesota Vikings, he exploded onto the scene, just like this YouTube channel. He ran over teams in his rookie season, rushing for over 1,300 yards and earning another 268 yards through the air. He earned Offensive Rookie of the Year honors and even an All-Pro second team in just his rookie season. He followed his rookie season up with one that was even better, which is wild to think that he could put up even better stats. In just his second season, he put up almost 1,900 total yards and was top 5 in MVP voting, and he finished 2nd in Offensive Player of the Year voting. He earned nods to a first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowl as well. While no other seasons could really match up to his 2008 season, there's one season that was even better in particular. In 2012, Adrian Peterson was on a mission to win the Super Bowl all by himself. While the Vikings did fall short, losing 10-7 in the wildcard round, AP did not fall short, winning MVP and Offensive Player of the Year, along with being a Pro Bowler and getting nods to his 3rd first-team All-Pro. He also just fell short of winning Comeback Player of the Year after an ACL tear. The best way to sum up his career is to take a look back at his 296-yard rushing game, which is an all-time record by the way, against the San Diego Chargers. Throughout his career, he earned nods to 4 first-team All-Pros, 3 second-team All-Pros, an Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and an MVP, with a total appearance of 7 Pro Bowls. His career lasted 14 years total, and he's also 5th all-time in rushing yards and 4th in rushing touchdowns. Arguably the best running back of all time is actually going to fall down to number 4 on my list. That player is going to be Jim Brown. There's zero chance Jim Brown falls out of anybody's top 5 on anybody's list. There's just no way you can put him outside the top 5. Now when it comes to strict accolades, Jim Brown might be the best of all time. He won 4 MVPs and has the best career yard per carry at 5.2. He was also elected to 8 All-Pro teams in his career and was a rushing champion 8 times in his career. And that was back when defenses were meant to stop the run. There was pretty much no passing and nothing but the run. He was elected to the NFL Hall of Fame in 1971, as he did deserve it. Looking back at his career, the only reason he falls lower on this list is strictly due to the fact that there were only 14 teams in the NFL back then, meaning less competition for Jim Brown to face up against, and also having less competition to run for rushing titles and even MVPs. I personally feel that this does damper Jim Brown's ability to be any higher, at least personally, on my list. Now, with Jim Brown in specific, I do feel it's very hard to rate him and rank him on anybody's list because of how early he played in the NFL. From 1956 to 1965 was his NFL career, and for a lot of us, and pretty much all of us, none of us were alive if you're watching this video. If you were alive to watch Jim Brown play, and you were alive and old enough to remember it, then I really want to be enlightened on how good of a player Jim Brown was. I truly don't know, and I can't have anybody tell me how good of a player he was. Scoring touchdowns is what every NFL athlete wants to do. Whether you're a wide receiver, quarterback, running back, even an offensive lineman, or a defensive player, all you want to do is score touchdowns. And for most young boys, that is like a dream of theirs. They want to score a touchdown in the NFL. But for LaDainian Tomlinson, it was a hobby. Tomlinson wasn't the typical ground and pound running back, and in my opinion, he's really what created the term elusive back. I know there's others that did it before him, but in my personal opinion, I do feel that he created that term. LT was an ankle breaker and could slither his way through whatever hole the defense would leave. He was fast as all hell and could sneak his way through even the smallest of gaps. That wasn't all Tomlinson could do though. He was also a wideout in disguise. He was a utility man, and there's no denying that. He even has stats from lining up at QB and throwing the ball a couple of times throughout his career. After getting drafted 5th overall in 2001 by the San Diego Chargers, he lived up to the promise of being a top 5 pick, gaining 1,600 yards from scrimmage and scoring 10 touchdowns in his rookie campaign. Throughout his career, he would surpass 1,500 total scrimmage yards 8 times and over 10 touchdowns 9 times, but nothing can quite encapsulate LT's career quite like the 2006 season. His 2006 season was arguably the best season by a singular player ever. He had over 1,800 total rushing yards and another 500 yards through the air. But that's not the impressive part. The impressive fact is that he scored 31 touchdowns from scrimmage, which is an NFL record by 3 touchdowns. For instance, there were 5 NFL teams that scored less touchdowns total this year than LaDainian Tomlinson scored in 2006. He was also named MVP and Offensive Player of the Year in 2006 while being named to a first-team All-Pro and also elected to a Pro Bowl. Throughout his 11-year career, he would score 162 touchdowns from scrimmage, which is 3rd all-time, and also have 18,456 total scrimmage yards, which is 6th all-time. His accolades consist of an MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, 5 different Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros, and 3 more second-team All-Pros. Thank you guys all so much for your support. I really, really do appreciate it. If you're not already, click subscribe. It does help out the channel a lot. If you want to comment below and tell me what your top 5 or top 6 would be, let me know. And let me know if you guys agree or disagree with this list or not. Most of these players you could probably just shuffle around and figure out exactly what you want, but that's pretty much it for this quick disclaimer. Being number 2 is pretty much as sweet as it gets. That's why I have Walter Payton, aka Sweetness here. Get it? Sweetness. I know that was a lame joke, but Sweetness truly does deserve to be top 2 all-time, at least in my opinion. Payton is what encapsulates the running back position. When you think of top 5 running backs of all time, you think of Sweetness rather quick. Walter Payton was famed for his off-field actions. That's how he got the name, Sweetness. Now, the NFL has an award named after him. This award goes to the most upstanding NFL player who helps their community out. Taking a step back and looking at his career as a whole, he accomplished every single honor an NFL player can win. Winning an MVP and Offensive Player of the Year in 1977, where he rushed for over 1,800 yards and 14 touchdowns. Oh, and did I forget to mention, this was when the NFL seasons was just 14 games per season? That wasn't just his 3rd season in the NFL. Though no other season would really even come close to his 1977 season, he would still put up over 1,500 total yards in 10 seasons. He would go on to be elected to 5 first-team All-Pros and 3 second-team All-Pros. He would also finish top 6 in MVP voting 3 more times, placing 2nd for the award in 1985. The same year, he would win a Super Bowl with arguably the greatest defense ever. His career totals are 16,726 rushing yards, which is 2nd all-time, and 110 rushing touchdowns, which is 5th all-time. He got elected into the NFL Hall of Fame in 1993. RIP to Sweetness. Now, I really don't want to make you guys wait for number 1 at all, and you guys probably already know exactly who it is, and that's gotta be Barry Sanders. There's no other player this could be besides Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders just made people regret being a professional NFL player, just because of how silly he made them look. Sanders was the only bright spot for the Lions for the 10 years he played there. Throughout his 10-year career, Barry Sanders was elected to an All-Pro team in all 10 seasons he played. I want you to let that sink in for just a moment. Every single season he played, he made an All-Pro team. Not only that, but he was elected to a Pro Bowl in all 10 seasons as well. He was drafted in 1989 by the Detroit Lions with the 3rd overall pick. This was shortly after he won a Heisman Trophy in college. In his rookie season, he produced quite well. I mean, that's an understatement of sorts. He would rush for over 1,400 yards and rush for 14 touchdowns. That wasn't even a top 3 season for him. He would continue to produce at an elite level, producing over 1,500 yards in all but one season. 2 seasons really stand out in particular though. His 1994 and 1997 season. He had over 2,000 total scrimmage yards in both of those seasons, finishing 2nd in MVP and winning Offensive Player of the Year in 94, then winning MVP and Offensive Player of the Year in 97. All in all, Barry Sanders would wrap up his career after 10 years, with a total of 15,269 rushing yards, which is 4th all-time, and 99 rushing touchdowns, which is 10th of all time. He would rack up tons of accolades, such as a 1-time MVP, a 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, being elected to 6 first-team All-Pros, 4 second-team All-Pros. He would also finish top in Offensive Player of the Year voting 3 more times and top 3 in MVPing twice more. He would also be elected to 10 Pro Bowls and would be elected to the NFL Hall of Fame in 2004. But the question is, what could have happened if he had played longer?